Welcome to another episode of Unboxing Entrepreneurship with Pallavi. Becoming an entrepreneur at any stage of life is a little bit of a challenge. But when you're doing it after working for a long time in a stable job, it becomes even more challenging because you're coming from a stable job into the unknown world of entrepreneurship. Today, I'm talking to Anshuman Bhuchar, the co-founder of Unlock More, and his journey through this transition. Incidentally, he's my husband, so it's going to be an interesting conversation. Let's get right into it. Hi, Anshuman. Welcome to Unboxing Entrepreneurship.
Hey, hi, Pallavi. Thanks for having me on your show.
It's always a pleasure. And I'm looking forward to having this conversation because, I wanted to talk about making the transition from corporate to an entrepreneur after a significant amount of work experience. So before we get into the details of that, perhaps you could tell the viewers, about your work experience and what you have done in the past and what you're doing now.
Sure. I have about 20 years of experience in various industries, various organizations. So maybe I'll start with my corporate experience and then come back to talk about what I'm doing now. So my latest job was as the IT director of a university here in Punjab. Before that, I was the IT director of a university in Ahmedabad. And before that, I had multiple leadership roles while working at Monash University in Melbourne, Australia. And before that, I had worked in IT services in various tech firms. What I'm doing now is very interesting. That's the name of the company. It's called Unlock More. And what I'm trying to do through Unlock More is basically help individuals, teams, and organizations unlock their capabilities through power skills and remove the barriers or perceived barriers that might be in place. And these perceived barriers might be perceived by an organization. It might be perceived by an individual themselves. So power skills like communication, planning, productivity, and positive behaviors helps individuals basically unlock their hidden capabilities and become more effective at the workplace. And in fact, even what I have seen in the short duration is that they lead much happier lives even at home.
Awesome. So how long have you been, how long has Unlock More been in operation?
So Unlock More has been in operation officially since April of this year. However, I have been doing this kind of stuff for many, many years now. 10 plus years. I've been running these kind of workshops, basically training people on skills like communication and so on.
I see. All right. And what has been the response like?
Response has been supremely positive. Now, the beauty of what I'm trying to do, I don't have to go and explain, because this is something that every organization, irrespective of industry, every organization needs this.
Yeah.
And it's almost like every organization wants it. So it's a need and a want. So we don't have to go in and explain. What we do need to talk about is how we stand out from the crowd. It is quite a crowded market. But we have a few differentiators that we feel are important for us. And the primary reason why we started this organization, we did not want to be another training firm. And with our collective experience of about 50 years, me and my co-founder, we've thought a lot about what we want to do that's going to be different. And how can we really add value to individuals and organizations?
Right.
It's been very positive so far.
Awesome. Great to hear that. Let's talk a little bit about, the transition, which is what I'm really looking forward to in this conversation. So, you work for 20 plus years across different organizations, different continents, and then to become an entrepreneur is a big sea change, right? You're now creating something from the ground up. You are the one who's making all the decisions, and you have in terms of a team, you have one co-founder, so it's a very small team from what you've gone to from. When you were making when you were in your initial days about thinking about what you wanted to do, what were the kind of, I guess, challenges or the kind of things that you were thinking about? That what is it that you needed to sort in your mind before you actually took the plunge to become an entrepreneur?
Anyone that knows me knows that I'm a very detail-oriented planner.
Yeah.
I like to have a plan very clearly charted out in my mind or on paper, to know exactly what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, who's going to do what. And, if plan A doesn't work, what is plan B and so on, right? So I like to do that anyway. It helps and it gives me comfort.
Yeah.
So I did do that as well in this particular scenario. So I spent close to 6 months figuring out, one, internally, what is it that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Also brainstormed with close friends, family like you, and also my co-founder, where we had multiple sessions to figure out what do we want to do and how do we want to do it. And so there was a lot of thinking that had to happen, not only in terms of what we wanted to create, but also in terms of what is going to be the impact on my life. And my life being, of course, me, because I'm now pulling a handbrake almost like on my corporate journey. And it's going to be a lonely life being an entrepreneur. But also, how does it impact my family situation? Because it's working for someone else means that you have a steady guaranteed income, but as an entrepreneur, that may not necessarily happen immediately.
Correct.
From the start.
Right. Yeah. So you had a lot of planning, you had a lot of, as you said, plan A, which was what is it that the ideal scenario, what is it that you're going to do, say, in the next 6 months, and, who's going to do what is the expected revenue, what is the expected investment, and so on. And you have a plan B. Everyone who is an entrepreneur knows that sometimes things don't go to plan. So was that something that you struggled with? I'm sure there have been plans that have failed. I'm sure that there have been plans that have not taken off as quickly as you expected it to. How have you dealt with all of that? What is your process to go through that?
So far, maybe it's a mindset, but so far I don't feel like any plan has yet failed in entrepreneurship. I feel like plans may not have taken off particular instances. Like, we thought of a particular segment or a product that we wanted to do, and that hasn't taken off because we're doing so much else. So, I haven't really, and it's been so, since we started in April, it's just been, 4 months, and we've been moving at such a fast pace that one doesn't even have the time to stop and think about, has something gone to plan or not. We do set quarterly goals that helps us stay on track with, what are we trying to really do? Because both of us are at that stage of our career where, we are in it for the value that we can add to others' lives.
Yes.
And so because of that, it's about setting some short-term goals and trying to achieve them. We are not in the game of saying that we want to create 100 CR company. Now that might change tomorrow.
Yes.
But right now our short-term goals are more about, let's talk to 10 people next week kind of thing. And so, our goals are also, I would say, quite realistic. And so then the chances of failure are also lesser. And so I think I have also, one important thing I'll mention though is that, my co-founder has a very positive mindset. And that does rub off on me because he has run an organization for 25 years. And made it a very successful organization. So it's a huge learning experience for me to learn from someone who has done it and done it well and done it successfully and done it in a very unique style. It's not another run-of-the-mill organization. And so that positivity also rubs off on me and helps me cope with things when they potentially don't go as per plan or a conversation doesn't go as per plan.
I see. All right. So there is, of course, the mindset side of it that, you have to have a positive mindset. You have to have a growth mindset and say, this is not a failure. This is not a full stop. It's a comma in what could potentially become, something successful, or it could take off tomorrow. That's of course, the mindset side of it. the other change that I do see when, moving from a job into becoming an entrepreneur is when you were at a job, you had a very large team. You have a team who's delivering the project that you are working on. In addition, you have support functions who's helping you with finance, who's helping you with administration, tech support. There's so many other things, right? You'll have somebody who's even somebody, who's able to figure out the lunch and the coffees for you, because that's also part of your day-to-day job. It helps you kind of stay focused. When you're an entrepreneur, you're literally doing everything yourself. So did you have to consciously go through that mindset change as well? And what did you do to become a little bit more, I guess, organized or streamlined is probably the right word.
Yeah, so I would say that actually, generally my nature is such that I always get involved. And even when I've set up teams, I've always been involved in the work. I've always tried to understand what takes something from A to B, even if I'm not the expert in it. And that includes things like, procurement function, a finance function, HR function, irrespective of what it is, I try and understand what it is and try and get involved. So, this hasn't been as big a challenge for me because I like to get involved and figure things out. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is to what I learned from my first startup was to surround yourself with the right people, right? So one is, of course, the positive mindset, but the second is people that can do something that you can't.
Yeah.
And an example is that when I'm trying to set up my organization, apply for GST, etc., I can do it, but it will take me much longer than an expert who knows how to do this and can fill the forms and submit it, chase the department and get the GST, right? That's just an example.
Yeah.
So surrounding yourself with the right partners, the right people that can help you solve these problems. And yet at the same time, because we're a young organization, we do not need to lay too much emphasis on some other aspects like procurement. And so, correct. There isn't a lot of emphasis on that, right?
All right. So you mentioned that you didn't face a challenge in terms of maybe knowledge or in terms of getting your hands dirty in a particular function that you may not have worked before. Has that also backfired in a way that you're getting involved in too many things?
So not yet, I feel. Again, we're a young organization, so it might happen that at some point I'll feel like, this someone else should do.
Yeah.
Or could do, right? So I'll give you an example. I was doing a fair chunk of business development. Now, business development is not necessarily my skill set. My skill set is running training programs, helping people, coaching them. And it got to a point where I felt like, there's a lot of business development and it needs a lot of focus.
Yeah.
Right. And so we have hired somebody to basically lead the business development efforts. And in fact, that is already giving us amazing outcomes.
Yeah.
And it's happening much faster than if I was going to sit and try and do it myself. It would take much longer. And I feel like the quality wouldn't be the same as well, because that isn't my skill set. Yeah. So apart from that, though, I feel like the other stuff that I get involved in, like, for example, I've created a tool for goal setting. In order to set your goals, track your goals. I've created an automated tool for that. I've created an automated tool for payment processing and a few of these things. But that's stuff that I know I can do. It is my strength and I have done it. It doesn't feel like, it's extra work that I need to do, because ultimately it is my company.
Yeah.
And I want to be involved in all aspects of its setup as much as possible, as much as I can add value to it. If I stop adding value to a particular thing, then I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing when you are building a company. You have to be self-aware to know where you are adding value and where you're not adding value, and also where you're being a hindrance. Like, you may come with certain mindsets that may not work in the current scenario, or may not work for whatever reason, right? And just because you're the founder doesn't mean that everyone should follow the process or whatever it is that you have set out, because you're the founder and you're the only one who can think like that. So I think being a founder does give you a lot more. It requires you to introspect a lot more. It requires you to really identify your strengths, identify your weaknesses, and it requires you to learn to delegate very quickly. You need to start thinking very quickly about, okay, I'm doing it well, but someone can do it better in half the time. And because someone else is doing it with much more focus, it's obviously giving better results than what I'm doing. So I think that is a very important thing for a founder to learn.
Yeah. And I think one of the things, sorry.
Go on.
Yeah, I think one of the things that holds this process back is the fact that, and I go through it as well, right? So as a founder, I want to make sure that the organization that I'm setting up, while is not synonymous with Anshuman, it's not the same thing, right? They're two different things. At the same time, I have a certain expectation of the quality and the way that this organization will behave, the values that this organization will show to its customers, its partners, whoever.
Yeah.
And so hence, that's where I feel like sometimes delegation can be hard, because you bring on board people who may not necessarily have exactly the same value system. So it's a very important, I feel like, an onboarding process where you discuss the values of what you want this organization to have, and take that new recruit on the journey of being able to embed those values, actually feel like they are a part of it, and in some cases maybe even co-create some of the values, and then you can actually let them loose, right?
Yeah.
Because you know that they can now stand by the same values that you want the organization to have.
Correct. You built a foundation which they can take forward, and that's how an organization's value is created. Which is not, as you say, synonymous with just the founder, because I think that's a very crucial thing, that, the company is not an extension of, it's not a replica of you, and it shouldn't be a replica of you. It should be a culmination of different positive skills from everyone involved. And that's really what, startups should be like. Before we end, when you were talking about what kind of planning you did and how you were looking forward to becoming an entrepreneur, were there any fears that you were thinking about? And, is that something that you had to deal with and kind of tell yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess, one of my biggest fears is fear of the unknown, which is why I do a lot of detailed planning.
Right.
And maybe fear is too strong a word, but let's say it's fear of the unknown.
Fear of the unknown,
yeah. So that is one important thing, and hence I took my time.
Right.
The second is, again, it may not necessarily be a fear, but it is an understanding of when is the right time in my life, looking at it holistically, like my finances, my home situation, family situation, looking at all of that, when is the right time for me to do this?
Yeah.
That's an important thing. And of course, there's a constant fear of, will it be successful or not? I feel like that fear has reduced a lot.
Yeah.
It was most prevalent before I started.
Of course.
But once I started talking to founders and CXOs of large organizations, more and more I feel like this is what everyone wants, and I feel like I can add value. It's not that they want it and I'm just going to do it, but I feel like I can actually add value to people's lives and help them live happier careers and personal lives.
Awesome. All right. So it was great chatting with you. And I think I mentioned that I've had a front seat view of your entire entrepreneurial journey. But despite that, I think this conversation has been more insightful, because we've talked about a lot of specific things that you wouldn't probably talk about during normal conversation. I think that what you have talked about today is very relevant for anybody who's considering switching careers from, a corporate job, or as I said, from something that they have been doing for a while to something else. And it could, of course, be from one startup to another startup. Though I know that makes life much easier, because once you've had a startup, it becomes easier to navigate the challenges and you become better at it. But yes, switching from a very stable job, from a very stable way of life, to the fear of the unknown and then kind of grappling with all of these other skills and these other people that you have to deal with. I think that requires a lot of preparation. And the more we can help people make that decision, the more information we can give them before they decide to become an entrepreneur, I feel the better we prepare them to become better entrepreneurs and to have a more long-term vision rather than, get disappointed when they've not been able to create something in the first 6 months. So having this knowledge, having an understanding of what a path looks like will help them stay in the game longer, will help others to get the value from them because, they've chosen to kind of stick with it. So thank you so much for sharing your insights, and I wish you and Unlock More the best.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on your Unboxing Entrepreneurship. I have been nudging you for quite some time now to have me on the show. Thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome, and bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.